Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. We have an emergency. They happen. It's just a matter of keeping your eye out. Last time this Phalaenopsis was watered, which is about 5, maybe 6 days ago, everything was fine. Yeah, I've got 2 blooms opened on this branch and new spike coming here. Plant looks fine, but I don't know how much the camera can pick up. That is virtually a complete loss of the root system. Virtually every single root in that pot has gone down in a matter of days. Now, as yet, I don't know why, but there's no point in leaving it in the pot. It can only get worse, so it's coming out. And this little one's here. This has been on the to-do list for I don't know how long. It's a little mini Phalaenopsis, and it got repotted into the really small pot because it didn't have much of a root system. But the only 2 good roots it had were quite long. So it ended up well above the media. It's like hovering above the media. And now that it's actually grown some roots, I think that would do much better on a mount. It's little, it's never going to grow really big, it doesn't need a big mount. And it's got enough roots to support it now. And it's actually been in the pot a while. I don't think the media's breaking. No, it's not too bad. I just watered it, I shouldn't have done, but at least that will make the roots flexible. So that's going to come out and go on a mount, but that's not really the subject matter. This is the subject matter. So let me just go and get my scissors and stuff. Right, killed 2 birds with 1 stone. I asked an open question about the 70% rubbing alcohol. And does it actually degrade with use? Well, yes and no, but the important thing is that those scissors standing in the alcohol are not really being sterilised. Now they are. Reliable information says that the killing properties of the alcohol is via the rapid evaporation. That's what desiccates everything that is moisture borne. Now that does actually make good sense, and you know what, I actually knew that. Somewhere buried down in my tiny little mind, I'd read that somewhere before. It's the evaporation process, the total desiccation of the organisms via the evaporation process. So the other thing quite a few people suggested was, why don't you get a much smaller glass? Well, there is a reason I use that one. It's a big fat square base, it's not very tall, the chances of me knocking it over are next to 0. And the only small glasses I've got are on tall stems, and when you're moving stuff around, that's just going to go over, I know it is, so I'll live with that for a minute or 2. But the sterilisation process is in the evaporation. So now that I've got them being sterilised, that can go back in the bottle, and effectively it's had minimal use. It's only been out of that bottle a minute. So the evaporation from the alcohol in the glass is next to 0, because it hasn't had long, and now it's back in the bottle. I'm only going to trim 1 plant, so as long as those scissors are sterile when I start, that'll do. And whatever's gone wrong with this root system, I don't think having sterilised scissors is going to make a lot of difference. Why this root system's gone down, I really don't know. It's the best Phalaenopsis root system I've ever had, and it's just collapsed. Well, it certainly looks from the outside. Yeah, it's just gone. Look, every single root has rotted. So I've probably lost this plant. God knows why. I was perfectly happy last time I watered that. But that root system has completely gone. Every single root. In fact, even the 1 or 2 roots near the top that look okay are not okay. It smells of rot. Yeah, mouldy rot type thing, and I believe whatever's got into that plant This is a £2.50 Phalaenopsis that was bought with 2 spikes with some of the buds going over at a discount. I've had quite a few spikes off of it, and although that plant looks good with that number of big strappy leaves and a spike coming out, it's not going to make it. Yeah, some of whatever the rot is getting into the base. There are signs of it on the base. No hope, not worth it. It's just not worth it for a £2.50 Phalaenopsis. It's easily replaced. It's the colour that turns up. And should I choose to do so, I'll replace it perhaps. But what you have to bear in mind is this is the type of Phalaenopsis I don't like. Not the blooms, I love the blooms, but the plant. You know, it's 16, 17 inches wide. Wherever that goes in my grow room, it's in the way. So that one's gone. Let's just, I was going to say, let me just get this, I've just washed my hands. Let me just get this little one out of the pot, then I've only got one mess. This should just pop out. Yeah. And have I got a good enough root system to mount? Yeah, I think I have. That's not bad at all. I've mounted a lot worse than that. There's a couple of... See, even these round here, they're not mushy. They don't look good. Well, that could be just because they've been out of the media and got dry. That's not bad at all. That'll mount quite nicely. Yeah, so we'll get a mount, get rid of all this muck. That's going straight out in the garden. And plant and all, sorry, but sometimes I'm ruthless, and that's one of those cases. If that had been special to me, I might have tried to save it, but I think it's too late. Whatever's taken that root system down is soggy rot, and it's in the base of the plant, I can see it. And without a root system, I'm not prepared to spend time and effort trying to get that plant to grow a new root system for what is nothing more than a couple of quid's worth of Phalaenopsis. I'm not putting that sort of effort in, and all the space it takes up. So we'll deal with this little one after I've cleaned the mess up. What went wrong there, who knows? I'd like to care, but I don't think it's going to happen, quite honestly. So if that was one of my dendrobiums, I'd be going spare now, but it's not that I don't like Phalaenopsis, it's just that they're cheap and cheerful, they're space fillers to me, and they provide a lovely splash of colour, but I don't want the effort that can go with trying to rescue them, that's for sure. So we'll dispose of that lot accordingly, get me and everything else washed up, because I've been touching it obviously. I don't want to go touching my nice little one I'm about to mount, and we'll go from there. But that is a non-hoper, I'm afraid. Literally in days that root system went down. It's an infection, it's gotta be. You know, it's not like it's been overwatered, it's in the house. And it's always been a good root system on that plant. So for it suddenly to collapse like that, it's got something nasty in there. Unknown, don't care. It's got to go. I'll be back when I've cleaned up and sorted myself out. I haven't done a mounting video for ages. It's going to be quick. Okay, just a quick one then. A few roots did get trimmed off, only a few of the oldest ones, and some of the others got trimmed back to live tissue. So they've had their ends trimmed. All you need to do if you've got a brown looking root is start cutting it back from the tip until you see green. And at that point you've got live tissue, and the root is highly likely to branch, especially on a Phalaenopsis. So it gives it a chance to produce a new growing root tip. If you cut the whole root off, it doesn't get that chance, does it? New principle in mounting for me, started about the middle of last season, is basically any moss that I put on a mount, so I'm just trying to find a nice place where it sits. The moss goes on the outside of the roots, not on the inside. That way, if the moss starts to break down in anywhere between a year and 2 years-ish, it doesn't break down as fast on a mount, because obviously it totally dries. It's not like it's in a pot that you keep constantly moist like you might for a Masdevallia or something. So the fact that it dries out in between waterings means that it can last longer. But by having it on the outside of the roots, not on the inside, if I ever have to take it off, I can. Now I'm not putting a lot of moss on here. I want to help hydrate the roots, but I don't want them totally covered, and I'm going to leave some of them as aerial roots. So I'm not putting much on, I'm just putting some round some of the roots. And that's probably about all I'm going to do. Just help keep it hydrated between waterings. It's not even essential. That could quite happily be bare mounted on there, bare rooted, and it would adopt and adapt and attach, because that's how they grow. So it would only be doing what's natural, but because I've got an unnatural environment as far as orchids are concerned, because it's a pretend environment, you know, I try and help, shall we say. Now that's plenty good enough. That's more than enough moisture around the base of where the roots are going to come out, and some of the roots, and I'm leaving some of them aerial. That'll do. Right, let's tie it on, strap it on quickly. As I said, I don't want this to be a long video by any means. Now I use fishing line. I know a lot of people don't like it because they say it cuts in. Well, only if you pull it tight. This is to hold it in place, not to try and sever all the roots. And that comes with practice, quite honestly. You can't tell somebody how tight to pull a tie. It's a feel. You just have to do it enough times that you're confident that it's tight enough to hold the plant still and isn't cutting in anywhere. And if you don't like the thought of that, well, don't use fishing line, use an alternative. Raffia wouldn't be any good because it'll be constantly wet and it'll just disintegrate, so raffia is no good. String would work. Do you know why I like using this stuff? Because when it's on there I can't see it. It is just that. It's not that it does a better job than anything else, it just becomes invisible, you know, when you use it. So I just want to get that up under that root. I certainly don't want to go over the top of it. Now this is only going to take a couple of turns to hold this in place. It really isn't going to take much at all. I want to grab those and get those under, and the base of the plant, that's probably good enough. And just pull my slip knot until it gets reasonably firm, and we'll go around a couple more times, but not many. I think this is going to be quite firm without a lot of tying. I think just 2 turns is probably going to do it. Then I'll take one more round a bit higher, get up under there and just hold those top roots in place, especially that one because I want that one to attach. But that last tie I don't want tight, and it is the last one. That's the one I'm pulling on, so I just need to take care. And you've seen me do this often enough because I started with a slip knot and then went round. There's my slip knot, and it automatically makes a nice V, which you can then thread your end through. As I said, people have seen this enough times, and I've now got something to tie against. So with my loose end, I've got a knot which I can tie in against, and I'm not worried about that pulling against the plant because it's pulling against that knot. That's it. There's no point in putting a tag on there until it blooms. I know it's a Phalaenopsis hybrid, but I don't know which one until if and when it decides to put a spike out. Okay, plant is firm. Yeah? Some roots in the moss, some roots not in the moss. Let's put that one back down where he was before. So I think that one will attach. Just leave it there. There we go, that'll do. Short and sweet. As I say, been meaning to do that a long time because it was too high in the pot. It just wasn't sitting right. Well, now it is, and with a bit of extra moisture around the base of that plant, plus plenty of air of course, hopefully it should trigger some new roots. It's not a bad little root system, I'm not worried about it. It's plenty enough roots on there to hydrate that little plant. And grew 2 new leaves last year, so it has grown. No sign of another new leaf yet, but yeah, and this was I've reused a mount effectively, so it already had a hook on it, so I didn't have to worry about that. So there we go, a quick mount, and discarding a ginormous Phalaenopsis that had effectively ceased to be and was not worth, for me, putting any effort into it. There we go then, see you next time, thanks for dropping by.